I'm Jared Haynes, and this is Rogue Outdoors. Today I'm going to talk to you about OnX Hunt Maps. Now this is a system that has a lot of parts to it. So you can either use the app, which can go onto a phone, it can go onto a tablet, you can look at it online off of a computer or desktop, laptop, something like that. And then you can also get it in a chip that you can put into your GPS, depending on what kind of a GPS device you have. And it works seamlessly throughout all of them. To get a few of the side points out of the way, this map system is not crazy expensive. You're looking at $29.99 for a year for the, I believe they call it premium membership. And that is where you get one state. You pick out whatever state. So I live in Washington, so I buy Washington state, and it'll give you all the information, and I'll go over what that basically entails for you. Or you can go with the elite membership for $99.99 a year, and that one gives you all the states. Now it kind of depends on what time of the year you buy it and stuff like that. They do run different sales, Groundhog's Day or something like that, or Veterans Day, or different sales that might make that a little bit cheaper, but that's their standard everyday buy it price. I've been using OnX for about 5 years now, and I just thought it was something that a lot of people don't really touch on, and this has been a huge change in the way that I do anything outdoors related, particularly hunting. However, I do a lot of mountain biking and hiking, and this is a huge part of planning out those hikes and stuff like that. So let me go into the app. I've got it downloaded on a phone here, and I will put it up over here off on the side so you can see what I'm doing, and we'll kind of go over some of the information. So when you bring the app up, you're going to look at it, and you can have satellite view, you can have a topo view, and you can have a hybrid. I prefer the hybrid view. But satellite is what's up right now. And satellite is just like any other mapping program where you can see the actual terrain. You can see the trees, you can see if it's been clear-cutted or not, which is really nice for hunting because you can pre-scout ahead. So if I'm looking at an area I've never been to, I can see, depends on when the picture was taken, but usually it's within a year or so, a couple of years depending, what that terrain looks like, which is huge. I can see if that's going to be clear-cutted, if I'm going to be sitting in glassing, if it's rock faces or a lot of rocks or any of that kind of stuff, I can see what the ground looks like. So that's under satellite and hybrid. Let me move to the hybrid view. Now when you zoom in on hybrid, it's going to show you the difference in terrain. It's going to show you the elevation gains. And where that comes in really important is if I'm trying to see just exactly, I want to hike over to this other spot, and I need to see if it's a rock face, what the slope is going to be like. Because if you're looking and there's a 500-foot elevation and then it goes to 900 feet in one little bar, you know that's going to be a cliff or something like that. And so it's really important that you pay attention to those things. And then under the topo, that one I don't really use all that much because I actually like being able to see the trees, but it'll show your topographical view of the points without satellite being on there. It'll show the ridge lines and all that kind of stuff. Next button down, that's going to pinpoint your particular location of where you're at. So you could be looking, miles away or in some other place, and then you click that and it'll bring you right back to where you are standing. Next part, you click that button again, and it's going to bring up this arrow. And that's where whatever way I turn the phone, it is going to actually show me which way I'm looking, which is huge because I don't know how many times with a lot of other GPS devices I've wandered along and you go the wrong way until it finally picks up, oh, I'm walking the wrong way, and then you got to go back. With really high-end GPSs, that may not be the case, but it's really nice having that feature on the app so that immediately it starts telling me what way I'm facing, and I can just start heading straight towards the truck or wherever I shot my animal, and I'm going back to get more meat, whatever the case is. And then the last button down here, that one, if you click it, it's going to show temperature. Obviously, it's going to be related to a temperature point near you, wherever that's, a weather station or something like that. So it might not be specific to you right exactly where you're standing, but it'll give you a pretty good idea. You can do temperature, wind. When that menu comes up, then it's going to show you weather. Wind, it gives you basically a quick snapshot of all the stuff around you. And you can see where those points are that it's taking that wind and temperature reading from, so that you can see basically how far away from you it is. If I'm going to be way up high in the mountains somewhere, it might not be as accurate, but it'll show me what getting close to that will be. So now let's get back up here. We're going to go to the bottom left spot, and that's going to be map layers. So under map layers, I pretty much use 3 particular layers. I'm going to use Washington private lands, or if you're hunting in a different state, it would be, you know, whatever that state is. Washington government lands and Washington hunt units. Washington private lands, that's obviously going to show you that particular private piece of property. The one that you're looking at is Green Diamond, and it'll show you, you can research, you know, phone numbers to call. It shows you where they're located, like a billing address or whatever they have listed, how big the parcel of property is, and then the boundaries of it, which is awesome. And then it also tells you the hunting unit that that piece of property is in, especially if it expands into different units. It's nice knowing that. But this way you can see, for Green Diamond Timber Company, I know what their hunting regulations are. I know that they allow people in on their properties here around where I live on foot. And so I could hunt that, as where if it's a private person, I would have to contact them if I was going to try and hunt on their property. Washington government lands, that one's obviously helpful because it's going to show you the government-owned pieces of property, state lands and stuff that you can hunt, that you may need a particular pass to get into, but you don't have to call that private owner. And then Washington units, that is obviously helpful as well because it'll show you those unit boundaries. And in a lot of places, if you're hunting right on a boundary line, sometimes the right side of the road you can't hunt, the left side of the road you can. And it makes it really nice that it's got that bold green line showing that to you. Next one over is going to be off-grid. Now this is where people sometimes get confused with, well, if I'm using my cell phone, what if I don't have cell phone signal? So the GPS on the phone uses satellites. It's not the same as a normal cell phone signal going off of towers. So you can be in the middle of nowhere where your phone won't make phone calls, but it still picks up the GPS signal. And so what this does is it lets you download that satellite view so that you can see the terrain that you're on, and then the GPS will just pop up and lay over it with your little guy running around. Amazing feature, because I mean that's what you use the majority of the time when you're hunting. Like I hunt up in the Olympics here, and a lot of the time you don't have cell phone signal, but I can still track, set waypoints, and all that kind of stuff. Now when you do go to save a new map, you can do it in 5 mile, 10 mile, and 100 mile big squares. And I do 10 mile. I don't know how much memory exactly the other ones use if you go to 5 mile, but on my 10 mile ones, it's about 350 to 400 megabytes, which is like nothing on a cell phone these days. And you can do a lot of ground. I mean, I've never had an issue with downloading. You can do pretty much everything. So like I said, I do the 10 mile. The difference is going to be the resolution that you get and the amount of detail and information. Now the only thing that I would say is when you do download a map and you're offline, it can still show the name of the private property, but if you click on it, it won't come up with a lot of the other information until you get back into cell phone signal. So you will know that it's private land, but you may not necessarily know the name of the person. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Kind of scout that stuff out ahead of time, which you can do with this, obviously. Map content. I'm not going to go through a ton of this because this shows a lot of stuff specific to my hunting areas. But what I am going to show is that you can put down all sorts of waypoints, and then when you put down those waypoints, you can name them specific stuff, and there's ways to search it through the filters and sort type that make it really easy to find. Oh man, I was just in that area, let me look up those particular points. Tools, there's going to be line distance, which is awesome. You can use that as it's showing. You use that to show how far it is across the clear cut, how far it is back to camp. It's not going to take into account the elevation difference. So if you have to go up over a big hill, it may not show you that. But what it will do is my GPS goes down, I know that this deer is on the opposite side of the clear cut from me. I could actually put a pinpoint from me to that edge of the clear cut, and it's going to be really, really close to where that deer is at. And depending on the distance, I could use this to make that shot. I've practiced with it up in the mountains. I have yet to have an issue with my rangefinder, but I have practiced it to see how accurate it is. And I would feel comfortable taking a deer anywhere within about 500 yards using that setup, just going off of side to side, as long as I have good points, like on a clear cut or from where I'm at to another hillside, and I can pick that out. But a lot of times you can. You have area shape, add a photo I've never actually used, add waypoint, and then mark my location. Both those you're going to use all the time. And under that add waypoint, you will see all the different options that you can put of the animal in particular that you saw, or that's where camp is, or any of that kind of stuff. Then you get into tracker, and it's going to be just like what it says. It's going to track and record your trip. So if I'm wandering along, it's going to show me how far I went, how long it took me, average miles an hour, and it'll do that in kind of a blue dotted line. It's really helpful. It's cool if you do a lot of running or bicycle riding, which is what I use it for, that it will show me my ride, and I can also then show this is my particular ride loop, and if I really like a loop, then I can name that as, you know, my favorite loop around whatever particular area, and then I can see what my best times are for that and stuff like that. So I think that that's really cool. Few keynotes with the app: you can send the elevation to people. You could write that down if they didn't have this map set up, and they could still find you. You can send your waypoints in a text message if the people do have hunt maps, which is really, really cool that I'm able to just text it to you. You can click on it, hey, this is camp. Another thing that is really cool for my wife, if she's not out hunting with me and she's back home, she can actually bring up the computer and see my activity. She can see what waypoints I've set, where I set up camp, as long as my phone has cell phone signal at some point to send that information up. But she's able to track that stuff. She can see what my tracks are, so she knows each day, as long as, like I said, I've got cell phone signal, that she can see I'm okay, I'm still moving around and stuff if I'm not able to call or something like that. So that's a really cool feature for your spouse to be able to check, or for people that are going to come up and meet you, they can see what area you're in. It works great for the scouting, like I said, because you can check all the topographical, you can see all the people that you need to call if you're looking at private lands. And then the last thing that I would say is this has 100% replaced my GPS. I don't use an actual, Garmin Rhino. I used to have the Rhino 750, their new GPS, and I don't use that anymore. I actually sold it because I found that the batteries on phones last amazing. It's just absolutely amazing, the technology in cell phones, and I can go through, I can bring up the app, see where I'm at, and then drop it back down again, and I'm not using constant battery. It picks up the satellites way faster than any GPS I've ever seen. I particularly am using an iPhone. This is my wife's phone, and it's a Samsung phone. Both of them work about the same, picking up GPS signal. They're just, instant. As soon as the app is on, it's probably 1 to 2 seconds, and it knows where you're at and is able to do that. And I've been in thick tree cover when other GPS, like actual GPS units, have had issues, and the phones just pick it up instantly. I'm able to get easily days out of my cell phone when I'm up hunting, as long as I'm not doing too much video stuff off of it, and the battery works amazing. I would say no matter what, you should have OnX Hunt Maps. If you do anything outdoors related, OnX Hunt Maps is something that will at some point come in handy, if not something you use all the time. The desktop interface is really clean and easy to use, and a nice setup. And like I said, I use it on my phone and iPad all the time, just looking around at places. Oh, this looks really interesting. I can pin it, and then when I get to that spot, I can put it all together. But it really educates you to where you're not just spending time scouting and wasting a lot of that valuable hunting time during a short season. You can get a lot of legwork done ahead of time, so that when you arrive at whatever area you want to hunt, you know a lot about it and you never actually had to physically stand there to see it. So I hope this video helps. I hope that you understand this isn't something that I'm making this video just to pitch a product that I haven't used. This is a product I've gone from using it on a GPS with the actual little chip to downloading the app to now exclusively using the app on a phone. And it has made a huge difference in my hunting and outdoors style, the way that I use electronics basically when I'm out in the outdoors. So hope you like the video. I will have a lot more content coming soon on other outdoor related products. I really appreciate you watching this, and if you like it, please subscribe to the channel for more content.